this topic, and I hate to talk about the Somali community. Hate is a very strong word, but I don't like the fact every time we talk about Somali women and Somali community, we talk about violence, we talk about al-Shabaab. You know, we talk about more than 100,000 people living in this country, most of them here in Twin Cities, and they have their life like everybody else, the good, the bad, the ugly, and but every time we remember Somali community when something happened, you know, violence and attack and all that. And the latest one in Kenya, the Westgate Mall, and it's a tragic, as the whole world is full of tragics, but there are certain tragics that the media picks on them, and the backlash of the Somali community. Every time something happens in Somalia or somewhere else by al-Shabaab, a few misbehaving Somali, we have to explain, we have to kind of be responsible of what these people thinking, and people ask us everywhere you go, what do you think of Somalia? What do you think of what happened in Kenya? And the media cover the event without any context, without any history of the conflict. We have here a very special guest. She is really following the event. She is, you know, Ilhan Omar. She's a political advocate. Also, she is working in the city. She is closer to to the city more than anybody else. That means she is into politics. And we're going to talk to her about what is this backlash in the Somali community, and is it really warranted? Welcome to Bulahdan, Ilhan. Thank you so much. And one day I just want to take you, and we'll talk about something else. You know, talk about sport. We'll talk about the fantastic way how the women, Somali women, carry on in this country, in the new world, and carry their family and all that. This is a wonderful, great story. But let's talk about not so much what happened in Kenya, because we don't even know what happened in Kenya. We don't even know if there is an American Somali who was involved. You know, it's just all speculation. Mm-hmm. But what I'm interested in the backlash. You see, everybody now has as you're saying, so every Somali now have a press conference. Everybody's an apology, send an apology and everything. We don't hear the American apologize when their troops, when their states destroy other countries, when their states' empire misbehave overseas. We don't hold the American guilty by association. So tell me a little bit about what's going on in the community there.
So it's an interesting thing that you brought up. Like the last couple of days, we're seeing huge interest in getting the community to condemn the acts of al-Shabaab and the attack in Kenya. And I find that quite interesting, because you don't see any other atrocities occur in any part of the world where you have the citizens asked to condemn the act.
Yeah.
It does make sense if you have, the president or, the
official,
some official to condemn something, but a regular citizen like myself to be asked to condemn an act that I am not part of, or to associate me with something that I, have the same reaction to as anyone else. It's,
what's the assumption
blowing it out of
when
proportion.
The Americans expect you to condemn every misbehaving Muslims or Somalia all over the world? We're about 1.5 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, if I have to condemn, I have to quit my job and instead just condemning every day.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not my job. But what is the assumption? The assumption is what? That you have an insight, knowledge, and information about what's going on about terrorism or violence.
Yeah, I think the assumption must be that we all are connected to this somehow.
They're all the same.
Besides the fact that we, are ethnically the same or share the same faith, but I think the general population needs to understand that there is a difference between the people that are carrying on the evil act, because it is an evil act, and that we do have evil people in this world. And then the normal people who carry on. The normal people, the regular citizens who carry on their life.
The normal people.
Maybe there is no such thing as
no such thing.
That's another day, another subject.
Exactly. and the context that how the media cover this. Al-Shabaab attacks Kenya. Al-Shabaab. Nobody will talk about how this Shabaab all about, and the fact that they were fighting the Ethiopians, that they were invading Somalia, they've been supported by the United States. Do I hold the Americans responsible, the average American responsible, because their state support another country to invade your country or my country, or support the Sisi to kill other people? I mean, there's a lot of...
We can even go farther. To us Somalis, al-Shabaab has caused more damage inside of our country.
Yes.
There is constant attacks that are being carried on,
them?
right? So for us, for me at least, it seems a bit interesting, because now everyone is very much interested in talking about al-Shabaab because of what's happening in Kenya. At the same time, they've taken these hostages at Westgate Mall. They attacked a shopping center inside of Somalia, in the capital Mogadishu, called Bakara Souk. And so no one has even covered that story. I, to this day, don't know how many casualties we had in that attack, but everyone wants to talk about the attack that was carried outside, and we don't understand the politics that is involved in this. It is not about, there was reports that were saying they were asking the Muslims to leave. We have some members here in the Twin Cities who've had relatives that were inside of Westgate, that were also part part of the casualties of that day. And so we do know that these people do not discriminate when it comes to their acts. We know that it is not about being a Muslim or being a Christian. These people are taking part in terror, and their whole ideology is based on terrorizing the communities that they would like to have an influence in. And it is about getting power, and it is about having legitimacy.
It's a power struggle in the whole area.
Exactly,
it's
it is not about what people are trying to make it seem, that it is, a Kenyan-Somali conflict.
And also, there is a tendency that Muslims commit violence just like they cannot help it. They're prone to commit violence. There is no context. There is no history. Even in al-Shabaab, as evil as they are and everything, when you look at their history, it's a product of what? Of destruction of a country. We have a very safe, secure country here. And we still have militia, we have violence, there are very evil people that do evil things every day in this country. But when a non-white commit a violence or misbehave, we condemn the whole culture. But when a white condemned, we just go to psychoanalysis, that he didn't have a girlfriend when he was growing up. Because like he's not capable of committing violence because he's white.
Yeah. So that's an interesting point. When you have an individual inside of in a Western society that goes on and does commit like mass murder. We have mass shootings that happen constantly here. We investigate that person and what has driven them to commit that act. When an act is committed by these Muslim, terrorists, what we investigate is that whole community. We investigate that whole faith. We investigate that whole society. And everyone is supposed to have some answer to why these people are doing this. When it is those individuals that people need to be investigating, it is their lives that needs to be under the microscope, not the lives of the rest of the community. Because I am not part of al-Shabaab. I do not
totally surprised.
I do not participate
you are a Shabaab.
in their...
Al-Shabaab is young.
It's young. Yeah. But in the context of what Al-Shabaab stands for, I do not share that ideology. So for someone to require an explanation from me as to why they're committing these heinous acts, to me is, inconceivable. It doesn't make any sense.
There's no explanation for one thing.
Exactly. We need to look at the root causes of where their ideology stems from, and what it is that makes these people leave their again, normal lives, and go back to a country where their families have fled.
Go back on Facebook.
Or their families have fled for a better life. For them to go back and to cause more harm in a country that is already fractured, that is already suffering from so many other atrocities. There is a deeper cause, and there's a deeper investigations to these problems that we need to focus on and not go on a witch hunt and investigate the whole community.
When you get thoughtful about analyzing those violence and heinous acts, and people accuse you you justifying the violence, and as if this is the only, they frame the discussion, this is the only option we have. Either you are either with, if you are not against, you are with. This is really very interesting. But when are we going to decide or realize that terrorism is a reaction? It's not. It's an ideology. It's a means of things. It's not an entity. It's not a place. It's not a people. It's just. It's a reaction to a situation. I mean, we didn't have terrorism before invasion and before war, and you see most of terrorism or violence act happen in a political conflict.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what you're asking is what everybody shies away from, right?
That wasn't a question.
Okay, so what you're insinuating is what nobody wants to face.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to face how the actions of the other people that are involved in the world have contributed to the rise of the radicalization and the rise of terrorist acts. So usually most people want to not look internal and see what what about their actions that makes another react. For us it's always I must have not done anything. Why is this happening to me? And nobody wants to take accountability of how these are byproducts of the actions of, our involvement in other people's affairs.
It's interesting that most of the people who commit this kind of heinous violence in the Muslim world, and Arab world, the Somali world, they're done by people unelected. They are just fringe societies, split or whatever.
Yeah.
But the violence done in the West, it's done by the people that are elected.
It's legitimized.
See, it's legitimate to have condemned by association or guilty by association in a democratic society because you elected those positions. You elected Bush twice and he invaded and caused 4 million dead so far. You elected Obama. You elected twice. And I don't know what this twice thing.
Yeah.
But it seems like it makes more sense to use the guilt of association in a democratic society, not in undemocratic society where the hijackers were not elected, the Shabaab were not elected. People don't vote in those guys. It's just, So is this a legitimate insinuating here? Is that a question in those?
Well, I think we have to tread lightly because you have certain structures when you are speaking about elected officials and the kind of decisions that they make because we expect these decisions to be taken on our behalf. And so it is a longer process for the citizens of whatever country that is committing what we might consider criminal to see it that way because for the most part it's seen as a defense to your sovereignty to the citizens so a lot of people will not go that far to condemn because you don't want to be unpatriotic. You don't want to be seen as going against your government.
Patriotic
but when you have entities like Al-Qaeda or al-Shabaab that are committing these atrocities, because you haven't elected them, and they are the normal citizens, then it is easier for you to say this is not okay, because it is not a legitimized action,
I was
right?
thinking,
by laws.
We're a country of laws. It's very interesting that